Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely wild. We are witnessing a literal state change happening right now in the industrial sector. We're going to explore how chaotic, physical construction waste is being completely transformed into a highly verified, high-value digital asset. It is this incredible collision of geopolitics, macroeconomic pressure, and the mobile silicone in your pocket. And it's fundamentally changing how we look at liabilities and assets. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap. We'll start with the cross-border trash war, then move to the edge AI solution, enter the digital refinery, the ultimate compliance shield, and finally, data is the product. We're going to seamlessly connect international trade laws with cutting-edge edge AI. Section 1. The cross-border trash war. To really understand the technology we're talking about today, we first have to look at the intense regulatory environment driving it. Washington trade policies and domestic Canadian regulations are currently colliding to create a massive bottleneck for industrial logistics. Think about this number for a second. 3.46 million tons. That is the volume of municipal solid waste shipped across the border from Ontario, Canada to U.S. Michigan landfills every single year. To put that in perspective, that's a staggering 14.35% of all waste disposed of in Michigan. And this heavily relied upon pipeline, well, it's suddenly under threat from multiple directions. And that threat is materializing as a very steep capacity cliff. Domestically, Doug Ford's Ontario administration is enforcing strict waste diversion rules. They're hitting mixed waste with a $60 per ton circle levy, which is essentially a huge tax penalty for unsorted loads. Meanwhile, domestic landfill capacity is projected to run out completely by 2034. But the most immediate threat, that's at the border. In exactly 7 days, the U.S. will apply 50% Section 338 duties to Finnish Canadian wood and paper. This is part of broader USMCA and CUSMA trade friction involving the Trump administration. So the clock is loudly ticking here. Operators simply cannot move waste the way they used to. Section 2. The Edge AI Solution. Now, what's really interesting about this is that you can't just solve a multi-billion-dollar trade war with a better spreadsheet, right? You need an entirely new, localized intelligence. We're witnessing the shift from a reactive cloud to a proactive, agentic ecosystem. We're talking about AI that actively acts on your behalf to build and plan rather than just answering a prompt. And this is being driven by the Google Pixel 11 Pro. Powered by the Tensor G6 chipset and Android 17, this device utilizes a specialized edge AI stack called LightRT. By processing massive amounts of data locally without any cloud latency, the phone literally becomes an active agent in real-time industrial compliance. But you might be wondering, how do you fit frontier-level AI onto a handheld device? The secret sauce here is TurboQuant. This is Google's new compression algorithm. It drastically shrinks large language model memory usage by converting standard coordinates into polar representations and using something called quantized Johnson-Lindenstrass. I know, it sounds like sci-fi, but in plain English, it allows billion-parameter Gemini models to operate entirely on a smartphone's memory. It completely bypasses the cloud while keeping absolute accuracy. It's a total game changer. Section 3. Enter the digital refinery. This brings us to a company called 905 Wood. They saw this looming capacity cliff and realized edge computing was the only way out. So they built a platform they call the Sentient Bridge. And this brilliantly illustrates their exact function. They're taking a chaotic physical liability, dumpster wood waste, and bridging it directly to the strict high purity requirements of the Earth pyrogenic biocarbon market. That's an extremely rigorous carbon removal registry. They are literally transforming physical matter into mathematical, audit-ready data. Let's break down this application's UI and UX workflow because it's incredibly slick. It starts with a simple photo for a request for quote. Instantly, the Vision AI pipeline classifies the wood. Then, using that Pixel 11 Pro and LightArt stack, the system hardware seals the data in under 500 milliseconds. Finally, it outputs a cryptographically signed PDF. What used to take a team of human dispatchers hours is now this automated agent-to-agent workflow that binds a commercial quote in seconds. Section 4. The Ultimate Compliance Shield. Now, generating data is one thing, but generating data that can actually defend your balance sheet at an international checkpoint, that's another entirely. The key deliverable here is a 9-point certificate of origin. This cryptographically signed PDF establishes the material under HS code 3825.0 and verifies it as a wholly obtained good in Canada. By meeting these strict USMCA Chapter 4 compliance regulations, loads can pass border enforcement entirely tariff-exempt. In a corridor facing 50% duties next week, the shield isn't just a luxury, it is absolute commercial survival. The really crucial point to grasp here is the sheer speed and security of this localized process. Because all of this, the tamper-evident GPS pinning, the precise date and timestamps, the kernel hashes, it's all happening right there on the edge in under 500 milliseconds. It physically binds the state of the wood to immutable data, creating legally ironclad court-admissible evidence, and it does it without ever waiting for a server ping. Section 5. Data is the product. If you've been following along, here is the real aha moment of the whole explainer. The physical movement of the waste has been completely decoupled from its financial value. On their 7-line decoupled invoice, a contractor sees standard logistics and an incredibly low $5 per ton clean wood levy instead of a steep penalty. But look at the carbon dividend line, 2,721 generated per load. That massive value comes from registering the clean wood on the Puro.Earth registry. 905 Wood's value has shifted entirely to this DMRV, digital measurement, reporting, and verification, and the provenance data cut. This specific digital provenance data is what actively funds and subsidizes the dramatically lower physical hauling rates. There's a quote from their operations that really just hits the nail on the head. You're not buying a bin. You're buying a document that lowers your risk-adjusted cost of moving wood. And that's exactly it. In reality, 95 Wood is a data provenance software as a service application that just happens to move wood. And by doing so, they're securing Ontario's industrial leadership in the Canadian circular bioeconomy. The DMRV data, not the wood, is the actual product. It's just a massive shift in how we understand industrial operations. Geopolitical tariffs and macroeconomic realities literally forced the adoption of mobile edge AI, and it fundamentally altered an entire supply chain. And it leaves us with this final, kind of mind-blowing thought. If edge AI can take a chaotic construction dumpster and refine it into an audit-proof, risk-free digital asset, what other massive physical industries are about to be refined into data? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it changes how you look at the physical world around you.